This conference will now be recorded.
I'll show you the syllabus that is going to be covered as a part of the course, and then we'll take it ahead from there. Yeah. So let me walk you through the PPT. So as a part of the SAP HR and HCM, initially we're going to start with introduction. So introduction to understanding what enterprise resource planning is, ERP is, and then introduction to SAP, what exactly SAP is, and then introduction to SAP HCM as well as the submodules that are present in SAP HCM. So this is going to be as a part of the introduction. And the first module that we are going to see and do the configuration is organization management. Yeah, organization management. So introduction to organization management. We have configuration of organizational structure, creation of organizational units, jobs, positions, work centers, and tasks. Understanding and configuration of organization management info types and plan version. Understanding what a transport request is, and the landscape of SAP. Understanding the landscape of SAP. So usually you might be aware, we have development server, quality server, and production server. If at all you would have come across these terms,
yes.
We'll be discussing more about this.
Yes.
So this is going to be as a part of the organization management submodule. So did you create any time, the positions, jobs, or anything like that? Work centers? No.
We have worked in associations in Employee Central, but we never actually worked or done any configurations or created any object in ECC.
Okay, that's fine. Then we have personal administration. This is the next submodule. So in this submodule, we are going to discuss about introduction to personal administration, then creation of enterprise structure and personal structure. We discuss and configure the payroll basics like the payroll area, control record, period parameter, date modifiers, and understanding about the retroactive accounting and ABKRS feature. So these are the payroll basics that we need to know before hiring an employee actually. So that's the reason we need to do all these configurations as a part of personal administration.
Sure.
Then administrator group and pinch feature configuration, personal number ranges and NUMCA feature configuration, understanding and configuration of personal administration info types, related default values and features, configuration of the info type menus and personal actions, header modifications and screen modifications. So this is as a part of the personal administration submodule. Then we have benefits. So in benefits, we discuss about introduction to benefits, benefit area, plan types, benefit plan status, criteria grouping, understanding and configuration of info types in benefits, related default values and features, configuration of health plans, insurance plans, and saving plans, flexible administration, benefit adjustment reasons, employee dependent beneficiary eligibility, benefit program groupings, and benefit programs. So this benefit configuration is more with respect to, this is more used in countries like maybe US, Canada, or maybe India or other countries. I'm not so sure about Australia because in Australia, I don't think we have any so many number of benefit plans that are being offered to the employees like this, right? I mean,
no, we don't have. We don't have these assortments of benefits being present in the market. Rather, it's the configuration on superannuation, which is a kind of like provident fund.
Exactly.
If you match that, yeah. And there are like other legislations around leave management as well. Like there are like several leave applications and leave legislation as well.
Okay, all right. So anyways, this would be kind of an add-on in terms of your knowledge in SAP, actually SAP HR. Then we have time management. In time management, we are going to discuss about introduction to time management, then time management process. We have positive and negative time management, time evaluation with clock times and without clock times, understanding and configuration of time management info types, related default values and features, configuration of attendances, absences, and quotas, counting rules and deduction rules, configuration of compensatory off. Then we'll discuss about schemas and PCRs in time management. We'll understand the time evaluation process, configuration of time reach types, then an overview of time manager's workplace, and then cross application timesheets. So these are the concepts that we are going to cover as a part of time management. But before we move forward, just want to understand, Salal, is time evaluation taken care in the SAP system, or do you guys use time management in SAP?
That's from a totally operational or like end user perspective. Like if we happen to have any discrepancies in terms of the values being carried out as an accrued value carried out for different leave types, such as long service leave or annual leave. If we happen to have discrepancies, we would have done the adjustments through quota correction 2013, 2006 absence quotas, and then run the time evaluation. Before that, like adjusting the data in the time specification so that the data matches with the various kind of like transition that happened during the employee life cycle.
Correct.
Then we have done the time evaluation as an end user from PT50 basically.
PT60, 50.
50.
PT60 actually. You perform time eval using PT60. Anyways.
Okay. We used to do that PT50, so that could have been a different kind of like evaluation if I'm not wrong.
Okay, possibly. So I have a couple of quick questions actually. You do the swipe. Do you use the swipe card system to book the time data day in and day out?
So we are using Kronos. We were using Kronos. I no longer work for that company. We were using Kronos.
Okay. All right, that's fine. So usually what happens is, any of the clients who use SAP, they use an external system to book the time data. It could be Kronos or anything else, and then either you swipe a card or you do your biometrics, and then time data is recorded into the time data machine, and then that is subsequently uploaded into the SAP system into different time related info types, and subsequently time evaluation is processed, and then the time evaluation results are flown into payroll. This is a standard normal process, so just want to know. Next, if you discuss about the payroll, then we have the understanding and configuration of info types in payroll, related default values and features, and then processing classes, accumulation classes, and evaluation classes, absence valuation and off-cycle payroll, integration of time management with payroll, integration of benefits with payroll, and integration of FICO with payroll. And then FMLA is, of course, US specific. It's not as a part of Australian payroll actually. And then garnishments. Do you use garnishments or something like court order?
There are a few provisions regarding garnishments.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we discussed about
child security payments. Yeah, child security payment that comes under the hood of garnishments, and there are like several other aspects of court order which are administered to garnishment payment umbrella, basically.
Okay, yeah. And then understanding the payroll schema, entering payroll data, payroll processing, organizing live payroll run, and viewing the payroll results, generation of payslip, and creation of new PCRs and rules. So this is going to be a part of the payroll configurations. And then when I say that we are going to understand the payroll schema, we are going to actually look at the schema, go to P01 and look at the Australian schema. And then also when we run the payroll, we compare the payroll log with the schema. Yeah, we compare the payroll log with the schema and understand how the payroll is being processed block by block, or sub-schema by sub-schema, or just step by step how the time payroll is executed. We are going to understand by comparing it with the log tree. Comparing it with the log tree. So that is the best way to understand the schema actually. Even when we are learning about the time schema, we perform a time evaluation. After performing time evaluation, we look at the log and compare the log with the time schema and understand what is happening each and every step. That's how we are going to understand the schemas basically. And then the varieties of projects which are there in SAP, like we have implementation, support, and all the other stuff. We're going to understand about this. So this is what is the syllabus that I'm going to cover, Sanal, as a part of the training actually.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks for the overview. I do have one question. So in specific to the country specific payroll management, would you be able to, like, is there any possibility that you can really reflect on the legislations of Australian payroll to understand the various components within the payroll management and try to reflect that on the system? Is that somehow?
Okay. Yeah. Specific to Australian legislations, I haven't done yet actually in terms of specific legislations, because few of them are actually customized, as a part of the SAP system. So I can't promise everything, but then maybe I can definitely give an overview.
Sure. Because there are some critical components out there where the requirements generally come through from the client, or probably from an in-house perspective as well. The requirement would come in relations to leave, like the complex leave structure that we have in Australian market, as well as the deduction and the additional payments which are carried out through 0015. So there are like various components on it. On top of that, the superannuation program really runs in a very varied manner as well, because there are like ongoing legislation changes are happening in terms of superannuation, as well as taxes involving superannuation. So which is a kind of like hot burning issues in Australian payroll market. I'm not sure whether someone need to develop schemas or PCRs in relations to that, but yeah, certain kind of like thought process in relations to logically identifying the process related to those components. Ideally looking for that as well.
Okay, so if you can help me, like make quick pointers of these concepts, yeah, which you are asking actually, and if you can send it to Naveen, the Expertsoft folks, then I'll look into it, and then I'll try and give an overview. But then before promising something, I just want to make sure what I'm getting into actually.
Yeah,
so if you can
definitely.
send the pointers, that will be handy for me.
Sure, definitely.
So that a reasonable expectation can be set.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, thank you so much for that. One of the other things that I imagine that I don't have that much of a hands-on experience in terms of configuration. So what do you deem that how long would it take for me to actually get a hands-on experience on this, or how much time it would require for me to absorb the total syllabus?
Okay, in terms of learning the configurations, of course, that is what we are going to do as a part of this course. It's completely configuration oriented, course. Day in and day out, we are only going to do configurations, navigate through different, SAP nodes, yeah, do the configurations, and we are going to actually consider an example, and based on that example, we are going to configure the organizational structure. Then we will go ahead and configure the personal administration related configurations based on the same example. Then based on the same example, we will do the time configurations. We will do the payroll configurations. And then finally, we also run the payroll based on the same example. So by the end of the course, actually, you end up doing a mini project. Now, for example, all this while, you might have seen this PA30 screen, right? Quite often.
Yeah.
So when you give employee personal number like this, you get to see the information pertaining to different info types. Where there's a tick mark, it means that the info type record exists. Where there is no tick mark, there is no info type record that exists for that employee. So when you look at info type 1, you see something, the org management. I'm sure you would have seen this info type record, right?
Yeah.
So when you look at this info type record, you see something called company code, personal area, personal sub area, employee group and subgroup, payroll area, and then position and all the stuff, right? Maybe personal administrators and all the stuff. So as a functional configurator or as a functional consultant, we need to configure personal areas and sub areas. We need to configure employee groups and subgroups. We need to configure the payroll area. Once we configure, and while hiring an employee, once we choose these options, different options, that is when an info type record is going to be created. Yeah. So where do you create the personal area and sub area? Where do you create the employee group and subgroup? Now, open a new session. Let me show you where we actually do the configurations. So this is the backend, what we normally call, where we do all the configurations. Yeah, this is called as the implementation guide or IMG. So in this screen, we are going to do all the configurations pertaining to SAP HR, production planning, FICO, and all the submodules or all the modules. So here we have something called as enterprise structure, and within this we have something called as definition, and in human resources management, we have personal areas, sub areas, employee groups, and subgroups. So we need to do these configurations. Once we do the basic configurations, that is when we can go ahead and hire an employee. When we actually hire an employee, we pick up these values, and then when the info type record is created, it is seen like this. Right. Now, maybe you would have maintained, which other info type did you maintain? Maybe 14, 15, right?
Yeah.
Are you there, Salal?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
So when you go to info type 14, you click on the drop down here, right? And you maintain a wage type or a salary component, whatever you call it. So let's say you are choosing a wage type called as, for instance, it's something called as car allowance, yeah? And then you create and you maintain the information here, the amount and all the stuff. So how do you get all these wage types in the drop down? So as a functional consultant, once we configure all these wage types, you'll be able to see these wage types in the drop down. So where do you configure them? So again in the IMG, again here in the same IMG, we have a node called personal management.
Sure.
And within personal management, we have something called as personal administration. And then you have payroll data, something called as payroll data. And within payroll data, you have a node called recurring payments and deductions here. You see? recurring payments and so we need to first of all do this configuration, configure the wage type here. Once we configure the wage type here, that is when you are going to see it in the drop down input type 14 here.
Yeah.
So like this is going to be the entire course is going to be completely configuration, intensive configuration course actually. It's a day in and day out. We are going to do the configurations and then see the output. Do the config, see the output. For example, it takes about 2.5 hours to configure info type 7, that is work schedule rule. So once we do the configuration, complete the configuration, that is when we are going to go to the PA30 and see the output. Similarly, info type 8, it takes about 3 hours to configure info type 8 work, that is basic pay. So once we do the configuration, end-to-end configuration, we go and see the output in the PA30. So that way, it's going to be an intensive configuration course day in and day out. And then for you to learn all these configurations, if you complement, with enough practice, then you can learn at least the basic stuff in 2 months.
Okay.
Basic configurations at least in 2.5 months time.
Sure.
Provided for every 2 hours of training, you are complementing it with at least 6 to 8 hours of practice. Then you'll be able to achieve this goal of completing it in 2 months.
Sure. And do you reckon that by having this particular training, that would actually fast track my pathway toward obtaining ECP certification, like Employee Central certification, Employee Central Payroll certification?
Yeah, this is of course the mandatory training. If you learn ECC, SAP HR, then yeah. Can you come again? Sorry, can you come again? What you're asking?
What I'm saying, like currently the market is more evolving toward ECP, the Employee Central Payroll, which is the cloud-based payroll system. But obviously there is a backend mechanism out there still. So I was just wondering, because I'm not conversant with that backend structure. So I was just wondering and wanted to have your take on that. That if I complete this training, would that be really kind of like constructive for me to obtain the ECP certification at the end of the day?
Yes. See, I'll tell you what. See, these in success factors, the employee central payroll part is not yet a complete product of success factors. Still, these days, the clients what they are using is still the GUI, payroll processor only, even now.
Yeah.
So when someone says that we are using a payroll in success factors, or when they say that we are using employee central payroll, it means that the backend configuration is done in the SAP system only. They have put this entire GUI on the cloud. This entire stuff will be on the cloud. At least now, this entire stuff is on the cloud. So if you have to do any configurations for into payroll, you still have to do here only.
Okay.
So the basic configurations, what you are going to learn, this will be very, very useful for you, even when you are using ECP system.
Okay.
Even when you are using the ECP system, the backend configuration still have to be done in this IMG only, in this IM implementation guide only, with respect to payroll. With respect to the employee central and talent management solutions, of course, success factors is a complete mature product in terms of master data maintenance and talent management solutions and all the stuff. So there's no problem with that. But payroll is not yet a mature product in terms of success factors. So they are still using the SAP IMG only in order to do the configurations.
Okay. Okay, makes sense. Sure. And as you would understand that I'm currently seeking opportunities and I'm very open in the market right now. So I do have like plenty of time in terms of having this training course, as well as like doing the exercise as and when required. So if I want to actually fast track the training session, would you still reckon that it would still take me around like 2 months to really absorb, or I can really fast track that as well?
Fast track, yeah, we can do it in a month time. 1 month.
In a month. Okay. And would you be sorry to ask you this, but would you be really kind of like flexible in terms of like the fee structure, considering that I'm actually seeking opportunity in the market? So
yeah, you have to talk to Naveen about the Expertsoft folks on that. Yeah. So.
All right. And the other question was regarding info type. Excuse me for my short of knowledge on that, but I know that the info type varies in terms of like the country, in terms of country specific, basically. So
Yes.
US, they've got a different info type, and Australia would be getting a different kind of this info type. So in terms of those, how do you think that you are going to supply those info type as a kind of like demonstration to the program?
Yeah. See, whenever we hire, an employee against, a particular country grouping, or whenever we do the enterprise structure and personal structure configurations against the Australian country grouping, and when we hire an employee against Australian country grouping, we see the relevant info types in the drop-down here, actually.
Okay.
The country-specific info types only will be seen here in the drop-down. So, with respect to the configuration of the info types, we are going to discuss about the most important info types, pertaining to a particular country, or most important info types which are commonly used. Those are the info types that we are going to configure and discuss. But then you see, if you look at the list of info types, they are in hundreds, literally. When you click on the drop down here, though this is US country grouping, though this is US country grouping, you are seeing 421 entries, right? So there are so many info types. So as a part of the training, it is not possible to discuss about all these info types for sure. And then I don't want to give you any false promise, but we are going to do the configuration of the most important and frequently used info types.
Okay. Yeah. So I do understand about the info type. Sorry, my question was actually around wage type. So
wage types. Okay.
Yeah. So we were sorry, I put it in a different manner. So in terms of wage type, there are like different definition that I have come across during my time as a payroll advisor. That would have been in terms of 2010, or the absence, kind of like what was it, 2012 probably. Not the info type. Yeah, 2010. Yeah. 2010 is the remuneration, I guess. Yes.
Correct. So once you maintain these wage types, then directly they will be processed in the payroll.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, we can configure this.
These wage type would be created by us, right? Whenever we are actually configuring the system for a country-specific module, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, makes sense. Because I can't see any Australian wage type out there. So, anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So when we hire an employee, and when we try to maintain information pertaining to the Australian country specific employees, then we'll be able to see those configs also. Now let me walk you through something. Let me take you somewhere. Hold on, please. Because this is a training system, if someone would have configured it already, then we'll be able to see. Otherwise, it's like we'll not be able to see that.
Sure.
So here we do the configurations pertaining to employee remuneration information and the wage types. So, okay, of course, these are pertaining to the US country grouping. Give me a moment. I just want to show you a few wage types pertaining to Australia, because you asked. Yeah, so this is Australian country grouping, and with respect to Australian country grouping, the master wage types. So maybe you can identify a few of them here.
Okay.
Can you identify a few of them here, for instance?
They seem to have a different name altogether because they might have been defined in a different under a different hood altogether. Like say, for
Yeah.
example, M2510, which is LSL on termination. This is the long service leave on termination.
Okay. Okay.
So this we used to have as 6300 as our wage type.
Okay.
Yeah. So the name would have been different, I guess.
Few of the text of the wage type you can at least maybe you can identify and relate it to what we will use.
Yeah, it seems like from the standard one, the one that we used to cover had been really kind of like changed, or there were like a lot of amendments have been done in the system, I guess.
Correct. So we copy these wage types. We copy these wage types and create what we call as customer specific wage types, which the users actually use. So these are the standard wage types provided by SAP. Yeah. And the name starts with an alphabet here. Yeah. These are the standard wage types, country specific wage types provided by SAP. So what we do during the implementation, we copy them and create the wage types for the purpose of the customers, which are actually called as customer specific wage types. So the wage types that you might be using, they might look like this, more with number only. They start with a number, 4, 5, and all this stuff.
Yeah. So while doing that, do you generally change the other aspect within the wage type, like whether there are any other schemas or PCR built in within the wage type, which you need to change as well?
Okay. See, when we copy a master wage type and create customer specific wage types, so what happens is the inherent properties of the master wage type also get copied to the customer specific wage types. So those properties, we call them as processing classes, accumulation classes, and evaluation classes. That means how a wage type has to be processed during the payroll run. Okay, so that is what is going to be copied automatically from the master wage type. But if you want to change the processing, accumulation, and evaluation classes, you can still do that as a part of the custom configurations.
And that could have been one of the reasons of changing the wage type name and number, because they wanted to actually make a change in the process, right?
Yeah. See, most of the times SAP provides most relevant master wage types for different allowances and payments. So we conveniently copy them and we use those wage types. We create customer specific wage types and we use them. But there might be certain wage types which should actually behave in a different way than the actual SAP provide master wage type. So that is when we do little modifications in the processing classes, accumulation and evaluation classes.
Okay. Yeah. Sure. One other question that I have is in terms of system access. So how long of a system access will be given to me for me to practice? For how many months or?
Yeah, you have to check with Expertsoft folks on that.
Okay. Okay. Sure. All right. Sure. Thank you so much for the overview.
Yeah. So what I'm expecting from you, Salal, is that I require, the pointers from your side, the additional, information what you're asking for. So let me run through that, and then, then I'll be able to promise something.
Sure, definitely. Thank you so much. I would definitely try to come back within a day or two.
Okay, okay. With the pointers, you mean?
Yeah, with the pointers, yes. So
Okay, okay.
my pointers would be pretty much relevant to the Australian legislation because that
Correct.
is the like premium standard we need to actually maintain as a payroll advisor. Like whatever capacity of position that I will be employed in the next or in my next role would be
Correct.
concentrated on Australian legislation. And obviously, since my experience lies with SAP, so if I take up a SAP role, SAP payroll role, obviously I need to link it back with the Australian labor law basically. So that is one
Correct.
of the pointing part. The other part would be the wage types, and I may share some experience or like examples that I had from the past, so that you can really relate back if you have any demonstrations or any examples in the system which you can relate back.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be able to actually fetch up some examples for you if you want.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right. You can just
and
send, yeah, this stuff. Yeah.
And my third pointer would be in terms of, I would dig down in terms of certification. If I have more questions around the certification, I would just add that certification part as well in my pointer as well.
Certification in ECC, SAP ECC, or
Yes,
in
overall ECP. As you've already given an overview, but still, if I have any questions, I would just add some pointers on that.
ECP?
Yeah,
All right.
ECP. Yeah.
Okay.
So what component of ECC would be really relevant in terms of obtaining the ECP certification? So that's
Okay. Okay. Actually,
that.
there are two payroll-related certifications in ECP. One is more with respect to the operational part of it. As a
Okay.
end user or a super user or as a payroll advisor, and the
Yeah.
second certification is more towards the config actually. So
Okay.
we'll discuss about this. I'll share the syllabus of that also, need be, which is available out there, in the Google if you search. But still,
Okay.
we can discuss if you want.
No worries. Cool. Thank you.
Okay, you welcome, Salal, and then please send those pointers, and based on that, you know, we can take it ahead.
Yeah. So I'll be sending that email to Naveen of Expertsoft, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're welcome. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.